So as mentioned, I'm Stephanie Dohey. I'm the Supplemental Instruction Program Supervisor. Presenting with me is Sarah Hawkins, one of our senior leaders, and Lydia Hardy has also contributed to the material today. So shout out to them. So the title, as mentioned, is Peer-Assisted Learning, Innovation and Enrichment Through Community-Based Study. So when I hear the terms innovation and enrichment, I know the meaning, but the applications can sometimes be general. So to give some specifications, what I mean is that I'm going to discuss how PAL introduces new methods of group or community learning and enhances the quality of collaborative study. It's all about students learning together with their peers, guided by a session leader who plans activities. I'm getting ahead of myself. So PAL sessions usually start by giving the agenda for the session. In true fashion, I will do that. We're going to go through what is PAL, what happens in a PAL session, what is the role of a PAL session leader, and some achievements in our 2-year history, as well as insights from a senior PAL leader. And we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So we do have a little promo video that I'm going to show. Consider it a bit of a teaser trailer for my presentation. I'll switch over for a second here.
Peer-assisted learning is a program that offers group study sessions to students in challenging courses. It is free, voluntary, and open to all students in courses that participate. The goal of peer-assisted learning, or PAL, is to help students understand their course material and improve their grades. In a PAL session, students participate in activities and games designed around difficult course concepts and led by a trained peer leader. PAL peer leaders are students who have successfully completed the course. They use their previous experience to create sessions that help students learn course concepts and prepare for exams. PAL sessions are informal, interactive, and focus on extra review of key material. Students can engage with the material and their peers, ask questions, and build a better understanding of course concepts. Evidence shows that the more PAL sessions students attend, the higher the course grade they receive. Attending PAL can not only help students improve their course performance, but also connect with classmates and develop effective study skills they can apply to other classes. Visit our website for a full list of PAL courses, or connect with us to learn more.
And we are part of the Academic Success Center. Every term, the courses we're offering with PAL do change, so we update those on our website every term.
Switch to Chrome to load your favorite sites fast, so you can browse in peace. Fast, safe, yours. Get Chrome for what?
We got a little free advertising in there. So a fair question to start with is, what is peer-assisted learning? You got a little answer to that in a nutshell with our promo video. Oh yeah. Just going to share with the people on WebEx. Sorry to forget you for a moment there, guys. Okay, so peer-assisted learning, or PAL, is an academic support program following the supplemental instruction model. Supplemental instruction was created in 1973 at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, UMKC, and it was created by Dr. Deanna Martin when she was a grad student at that university. She was tasked with creating an inclusive and cost-efficient program that would benefit students academically. 10 years after that, in 1983, the program was awarded funding, recognized by a U.S. Department of Education panel, and was spread to other institutions around the U.S. And 10 years after that, in the 90s, it expanded outside the US, and UMKC started their International Center for Supplemental Instruction, ICSI, at UMKC. The abbreviations are endless. And we now have our own national center at the University of Guelph in Canada. And they offer training to different supervisors at different institutions. So it's a program with a rich history, 50 years or more. And the International Center reports that it has trained people from over 1,500 representatives in at least 30 countries, and there are 6 national centers around the world now. And just to give you an idea of how prevalent this is in the US alone, This is from the International Center site, and these are just the institutions in the US that use supplemental instruction, not including Alaska and Hawaii because they wouldn't fit on the screenshot. Shout out to the non-continental US. So the essentials of PAL at the core of the program. The program is non-remedial, meaning it's not meant as a just-in-time remedy for grades. And the program is for everyone. It could be a student who's in danger of failing a course and just wants a passing grade. It could be a student who's getting C's and wants a B. It could be an A student who wants an A+. It's there for everybody, and I think all those achievements are equally valid and successful. And sessions focus on the most challenging course concepts. That's defined historically from what we know of the course. And also by focusing on the course materials, we provide active learning experiences. So sessions are based on engaged learning activities. More on that later, spoiler. But the activities could be something like taking the content of a chapter and turning it into a Jeopardy game or a game of trivia. Our sessions are regularly scheduled. 2 50-minute sessions per week is what we normally do in person. And I try to make them as accessible as possible in terms of student schedules. And we do that by, on the first day of class, we give students an availability survey. And they fill out the times they're most likely to attend sessions. Then I look at those results and sit down with the session leader. And we figure out the best times to offer sessions when most people would be able to attend. Sessions are driven by student needs, which means that as well as working on historically difficult concepts, the session leader also listens to student suggestions and uses their points of familiarity or confusion as a guide to what material they should cover in future sessions. And I'll explain more about the session leader shortly, but they are trained undergrad students who have done well in a particular course they're matched with. They receive a lot of training on how to use collaborative activities, meaning group discussion techniques, in order to get students interacting. And as you can imagine, much like my presentation today, they don't know if they're going to get 5 people or a room full of people. So they need to show a lot of flexibility in how they go at the group techniques. We've had sessions where the leader is working one-on-one with a student, and we've had other sessions where 40+ students have showed up. For instance, if it's a large group or a small group, the students might work together as a group as a whole on a problem, or they might break down into smaller groups we call clusters. And there's also turn to a partner where they work together. But the most important part is that they always come back and report to the session leader so that the session leader can ensure that the information is correct and accurate. Our purpose, as defined by the International Center, is to benefit students academically. By attending sessions, they earn higher mean course grades. They receive lower rates of DWFs. That means grades of D, grades of F, and withdrawals from the course. And they persist at higher rates. There are also studies, as my quote says, that show that students who learn in groups learn 2.5 times more than those who study alone if the groups stay on task. And it's the session leader's job to keep the group on task. And there's also a social element that's not so easily measured, the building of community between students in sessions. And it's such an integral part of the program. It's really heartwarming to see how the students open up over the term. And what happens in a session? So the core concept is that you learn something best when you're able to teach it to somebody else. Rather than passively reading or listening to material, we work towards the most interactive and engaging practices of learning. As I mentioned, there's usually 2 50-minute sessions per week, scheduled according to student availability, and every session has a planned agenda. So it starts with an opening activity, usually something about 3 to 5 minutes that ensures the students have the understanding to go on with the activities. And generally there's between 1 and 3 main activities per session and a quick closer, much like the opener, that's about 5 minutes, and clarifies and checks for understanding, or can ask students points of clarity or confusion so that they can use those for future sessions. So to sum it up, instead of a session leader re-lecturing material, we focus as much as possible as getting the students to teach each other the material, and the session leader will work on facilitating discussion to ensure the information is correct. At this point, I'm just going to say leader instead of session leader or PAL leader. When somebody doesn't know anything about my program and I start talking about my leaders, how great my leaders are, and I love my leaders, I can get some strange looks, but I think we're all on the same page with it now. So what are some of the activities, you may ask? I mentioned it could be Jeopardy. That's good for a larger content, something like a midterm review, or turn material into a game of trivia. There's another activity called Super Tic-Tac-Toe, where you draw a really big tic-tac-toe grid on the board, and each cell has a question in it. Then students break up into 2 teams. They choose one of the cells. If they answer the question correctly, they put an X or an O in that spot. And then you move on until one team wins. Another nice activity that a leader came up with last term is like Hangman, but I think that's a really weird name for a game, so I'm calling it Guess the Word. It was bio, and they were covering parts of a flower. So what they did was get a graphic of a flower and break it down into its parts. Then every time the students guessed one of the terminology words, letter by letter, they got a piece of their flower. And whatever team put their flower together first were the winners. Kahoot is another classic that students love. It's a website that creates interactive quizzes. And another activity I hear good things about is Snowball. That allows some anonymity. So the students get a piece of paper and write down their questions, and they crumple it up and throw it to the beginning of the room, sometimes with the leader offering themselves as a target by their own choice. And then the leader unfolds each piece of paper and reads out the question, and they discuss it as a group. So we strive for an informal environment, but it can still be intimidating to ask questions sometimes. So that way they can ask questions without having your name associated with it. And you've heard a lot about them, but who exactly are they? What is the role of a PAL session leader? At this point, you know the generals of what I mean when I refer to the leader, but these are the specifics we look for a PAL leader and what their job is. They're an undergraduate student. Any year is eligible. We want them to have completed the course they're matched with successfully or demonstrate equivalent knowledge. So some students may come in with A-level chemistry. And then if they didn't do chemistry 1010, but they did chemistry 1050 and 1051, we could consider that equivalent knowledge. And another important part of the job is that the leader attends all lectures along with the students, and they're paid for that. They make sure that they're a visible presence in the classroom and that they follow the course content with the same focus on topics and the same pace as the instructor. They do not tutor or re-lecture. At times, they may need to quickly explain a concept before they move on, but they focus on having the students do the explaining as much as possible. Again, the ultimate principle of the program is that you learn something best when you're teaching it to somebody else. So the goal is to get students working together and talking to each other, while the PAL leader helps keep the session on task and focused. So like I mentioned, they plan lessons and activities. They go into the sessions with an agenda, and they are to stick to that agenda as much as possible. And the leaders also receive quite a bit of training before the term starts and anything that's necessary during the term. And it's really great to see how much the PAL leaders enjoy the program too. The last 2 terms, I've had 8 out of 12 leaders return per term. And one of my original leaders from our pilot project in the spring of 22 stuck with us for 2 years. He just graduated, which is a sentimental moment for me. And I have another in his 5th consecutive term as a leader and others in their 3rd and 4th terms. So I consider that another marker of success when they keep coming back. It's especially exciting to see leaders who want to go into education, the future, and how much they love the program and how they grow as students and educators. The role at first can seem to have some overlap with the TA, so I just want to go over that a little bit. So a PAL leader will encourage group participation and learning outside of class, whereas a TA may help instructors teach material during class. So one focus is outside the classroom, and another focus is primarily in the classroom. PAL leaders will lead students towards success by having them teach others the content, whereas a TA would lead students to success by teaching the content directly. PAL leaders are peers who are also undergraduate students, whereas the TA is seen as a content expert or an authority figure. We try to avoid the authority figure as much as possible. Even in a session, the leaders try to avoid the lecture pose as much as possible. And when students are working in groups, they'll go around and sit with each group and talk to them about the problems they're working on. One of the manuals from the International Center says that in an ideal PAL session, you should look into the room and not immediately know who the leader is, because they're sitting down with all the other students. And we tell the leaders to let the students know they don't have all the answers. They don't need to be experts in the course. I want them to be experts in what they're doing in that session and have a list of questions and answers to go by. But they don't They don't need to be an expert in the course. The professor is the expert in the course. They're the expert in what they're doing per session. And they go in with a particular agenda and topics and activities planned. The PAL leader should not see any grades. That's in order to maintain the non-authority figure status, whereas the TA may grade material or distribute graded material to the class. The PAL leader is paid to attend lectures and run study group sessions, whereas the TA is paid for teaching and grading, etc. And I included my resources like a good English major. And just to touch on it, the role of the instructor in PAL. I appear to be missing a slide. The role of instructors in PAL. So it's not intended to create any additional work for instructors. We include instructors in the selection of the PAL leader for their course and ask for their approval of the candidates. We also ask for occasional in-class announcements, like the first day of class when we give the availability survey and the introduction to the program, and occasional announcements throughout the term to remind students of session times, locations, and topics. And just to touch on this as well, PAL Center and Help Centers. So PAL is considered a complementary service to Help Centers because there are different focuses between the two. PAL is not an on-demand service, so students don't come in with particular questions to ask for help with. If they do, we tell them that we can work on that topic in a future session, but we need to stick to the agenda for that session. That's why they're told ahead of time as much as possible what each session will cover. And the sessions are planned in advance. And another big difference is that PAL leaders don't work on assignment material before it's graded. So if somebody comes in and says, I need help with question number 3, it's due tonight, we can't do that. We do recommend a help center in that instance, or we tell the student we can work a question just like that into the next session, or we could try something like that today maybe. But the big thing is that we don't work on graded material before it's submitted. And now to mix things up a little bit, a Kahoot game. This link is for my benefit. I'll show you a QR code now. Okay, so the downside of the free Kahoot is that there's up to 10, once we got 20 players at a time. So it's kind of first come, first serve. And just keep in mind, we tell students that when you put in your username, that will show up after each round next to your score. So if you'd rather not have your name next to the score, then you can put in a silly name, whatever you like. I'll give everybody a minute there to sign up. Just a 4-question quiz. No study required. So you can use the QR code, or you can also go to kahoot.it and insert this game pin. We can get a couple more players in there if anybody's interested. Here we go. I always love seeing the little cartoon faces too, and you can switch up their hats and stuff, so it's fun. Okay, we'll call it there. If anybody wants to join after that, they're welcome to. I think we got close to 10 now. Okay, start the game. First question, after my title. 20 seconds to answer each question, true or false. PAL is part of the Academic Success Center. So you're going to see some colors show up on your screen, and you hit the color associated with the answer you want. So if it's true, you hit blue. If it's false, you hit red. True. PAL is part of the Academic Success Center, which is part of CITL. Some good scores going there. Next question, what does PAL stand for? Does it stand for People On Learning, Pretty Awesome Lessons, Peer Assisted Learning, or I don't know, I haven't been paying attention? All valid answers in their own way. People all learning pretty awesome lessons, peer-assisted learning. All right, glad to see we all got that one. Everybody's paying attention. Our third question, true or false? PAL leaders can work on assignment questions before they're graded. So can our PAL leaders work on assignments before they're graded? True blue, false red. Here we go, false. So they cannot work on the assignment questions before they're graded. After they're graded, after they get a midterm, if that copy is handed back to students, then they're free to go over those questions afterwards for points of confusion, but they don't work on the questions before they're graded. That's more of a help center specialty. Last question. Does PAL sound awesome? Your possible answers are yes, 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 and yes. Now there's some choice there. There we go. I had to choose one right answer, so I chose blue, but we're all right here. Okay. Then at the end of the Kahoot game, the scores come up at the end. Again, that's why I say to students, you can put in your real name or you can use a username. Who's in number one? Okay. You get more points the quicker you answer as well, so that's also a factor. All right. Let's get back to the slideshow. Okay, and just to hit on some of our achievements in the 2 years we've been active, we started in the spring of 22 with our pilot program. We had 2 leaders and 2 courses. In our most recent term, the winter of 24, we had 12 leaders and 17 course sections. In our first term, we had 38 individual students attend, whereas last term we had 254 individual students. Our first term, we saw 43 sessions. Last term, we had 212 sessions. The contact hours need a little bit of explaining. So one of the metrics we use to assess the program are what we call contact hours. If a leader has a session and 2 students show up, that's 2 contact hours. If 10 students show up, that's 10 contact hours. So it's basically taking the attendance for each session and adding up all those numbers. So in our first term, we had 218 contact hours, which I was pleased with because you never know, it's a voluntary program. You never know how many people are going to show up. And I was really pleased with that. 218 contact hours. And last term, we saw 819 contact hours total. So we've had a lot of growth since the beginning, since the first term. And I got into making bar graphs a couple of days ago, and I took most of them out. I wanted to leave one. It's got a pretty purple color. But this shows our contact hours per term. There's usually a bit of a dip in the spring because less courses are offered and we have less courses in the program. But you can see we've had good improvement there every term. And I got to show one of my graphs, so that's good. And our overall stats, for the last 4 terms, we've had average contact hours of 738 per term. We've had 998 individual student attendees, so close to an even 1,000, just needed 2 more. We've offered over 800 sessions, and our collective contact hours, 3,419. Again, so close to an even number there. But I was really pleased looking at those stats. And at the end of every term, we give students an anonymous feedback survey. And we ask them, are they likely to recommend PAL to fellow students? 90% of those respondents said they would probably or definitely recommend PAL to their friends. And we also ask if they found PAL helpful, very helpful, extremely helpful, or not. And 92% voted between helpful and extremely helpful. So especially on anonymous surveys, you know students are going to be true. So, and I've also seen some good reviews on the MUN course review Facebook site. Again, you know students are going to be honest there. So if I see good feedback, I know it's true. And do a little time check. Okay. And when we track attendance, I'm always interested in seeing how often students come back and if they attend sessions for other courses. We've had some students who attended 20 or almost 30 hours of PAL throughout the term, which is a significant time commitment over 13 weeks. It's almost the equivalent of attending another course in terms of time spent in the classroom. We've had students who come to more than 80% of the sessions for one course or two courses throughout the term. And it's also great to see students who keep coming back turn after turn. We have one student who he just finished his third term at MUN, and each term he has just incidentally had PAL offered in at least one of his courses. So he's attended PAL for 4 courses of the last 3 terms. I think I looked at it and it was about 41 hours in all spent in sessions. So they keep coming back for more. It's telling me we're doing something beneficial and meaningful to students. And there's so much of the program that you can quantify through the stats, the number of attendees, the number of contact hours, all the numbers. But there's another angle that can't be measured so easily, which is the impact it makes on individual students and the social aspect, and their level of confidence and ease of sociability. On that survey I gave, there are always a couple of students who say they may have dropped the course without PAL, and it's great knowing we're making that impact. We also ask students to predict their final grade, what it would be if they didn't attend PAL versus when they did. And they may not be able to predict their grades with total accuracy, but seeing that they think they're going to get a higher grade after attending PAL, just knowing they have that much more confidence in their knowledge walking into an exam or a test, it makes such a huge impact on their education and their lives. And in terms of grades, with the program being aimed at all students, as I mentioned, I don't necessarily see the highest grades as the markers of our highest achievements. The success of a student who usually gets a B and moves up to an A because of PAL is equally valid to the success of a student who may have failed or withdrew from a course and just got a passing grade. I think they're both equally valid and appreciated, and I don't think you can mark one as more significant than the other. So the program is primarily aimed at academic success, but a really significant thing I enjoy seeing is the social engagement with students in the sessions. And I observe a lot of the sessions throughout the term. At first, I see students come in and they're shy and unsure. They may not realize they're coming in for group activities. We've all taken classes in the past for the prof-site group activities, and we may not have had total enthusiasm for the task. But by the time I give them that end of term feedback survey, I'm always blown away by how much the students loved getting to know each other and talking in the smaller groups and being reassured that their fellow students had the same questions they did. In anonymous feedback, one student said that the welcoming environment the leader and fellow students helped create made PAL experience their favorite part of the semester. And just to think of that, bringing that sense of community to the learning and to the social life of a student, again, it can have such a major impact on their academic success and their day-to-day lives at university. It's really rewarding to myself and the PAL leaders to see that. Another one of my favorite comments was that the sessions were really helpful and made the student feel more connected to their program and grasp the materials better. They liked that the session leader encouraged people to be okay making mistakes and reassured them that they also made mistakes and sometimes still do, as we all do. And they emphasized that those mistakes can lead to further learning experiences, because sometimes you remember something better if somebody corrects you on it, as opposed to just automatically recalling the correct answer right away. So it builds friendships. We are PAL, and also helps them understand course material. So I love seeing those attendance stats and the impact PAL is having on grades, but I also love reading through the feedback and seeing what the students think. And on an anonymous forum, as I said, they will be honest, and I know I'm hearing a true reflection of their experience. Speaking of true reflections of experience, I'm going to pass over the floor to Sarah Hawkins. She's a senior member of my team who acts as a session leader and a mentor to other leaders. Sarah's going to give the inside scoop on what it's like to be a leader. There you go. That's easier than what I was doing.
All right. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I have been with the program since winter of 2023. So I completed 3 terms as the leader for Bio 1001, and now in the spring, I'm going to be the leader for Chemistry 1051. So I have had nothing but a positive experience being a leader for this program, and I feel we talk a lot about how the program benefits the students who attend the sessions, but it also really benefits the leader just as much or more, in my case, than the students. So I wanted to talk a little bit about PAL leader versus TA because I had this experience. So when I first came in to this position, I was thinking, oh, I'm just going to be a TA again. You know, I did that with the chemistry department for 2 years, but it's completely different. And the informal environment that we create is so beneficial to the students, especially since we don't see the students' grades. So I think the students feel a lot more comfortable asking questions, answering questions when they know that we don't have this bias of grading their work or seeing how they're doing in the course. And then feedback from students. So we get a lot of positive feedback, and the students who take time out of their day to come to the sessions are always very appreciative, and they really make the job very enjoyable. So taking on the PAL mentor role. So in the fall, we added like peer mentor roles to the program, which means I go and I observe sessions of other leaders throughout the semester. So there are two mentors and we have a team each of leaders, and we go and watch their sessions. And this is extremely beneficial for both myself and for the other leaders as well. So I know when I go and I get to watch other people do their sessions, I learn many new activities. I learned different engagement strategies that they use, how they run their sessions, and then I can take this and implement it in my own sessions, but also give this advice to other leaders as well. I know I've done the same course. I did it for 3 semesters, and we do get kind of stuck in our ways with how we do sessions. So seeing new activities and different perspectives from different leaders is always great. And then I'm available to give advice and provide solutions to other leaders, whether that be after their sessions. Sometimes we have debriefs where we talk about what they thought went well, what they would like to improve, and honestly, it's very beneficial for myself and them as well. So then frequent problems during sessions. So that may sound a little bit negative, but it's not negative. It's more so challenges that we face and how we have to go about dealing with them. So engagement has always been one of the main problems that I will face in my sessions, and I've heard this from other people as well. So with engagement, especially at the beginning of the semester, you don't know how many students are going to come to your sessions. So you could get 20, you could get 2. And at the beginning, they're not usually very comfortable with you, but over time they will open up, and it can be frustrating for the leader. You know, if I'm standing up here asking questions, trying to start a discussion and lead students to answers, it can definitely get a bit hard when nobody will talk to you. But after a bit, and after they realize it is informal and you have the group activities, they will open up, which is great. So then modifying session plans. So sometimes I will plan a session that's focused like very much on group work, and there are always students who are uncomfortable with working in groups or working in partners. So we do have to problem solve every now and again and make sure that everyone feels comfortable, which is always great. And the students love that they can almost not run the session, but like they can feel comfortable with how the session is going. And then lastly, personal and professional growth for the leaders. So like I said, this benefits the students a lot, and they learn how to apply their knowledge. And we take basic or difficult concepts and then we apply them to real world assessment questions and applications, which is great for them, but also for the leaders, it's wonderful. So public speaking, I know a lot of leaders have talked to me about how they're shy. More shy people don't like public speaking, but this program really helps us. You know, we get up in front of maybe 5 people, maybe 25 people. At the beginning of the semester, we will do in-person like announcements, so talk to the whole lecture hall about the program and the benefits of it, which is always good. So we get to improve our public speaking a lot, and then furthering our subject knowledge. So I know I took Bio 1001 myself, obviously, and I've done it 3 times, but every time that I do Bio 1001 again, I learn something new and I learn another way of how to explain things. And they say the best way to learn is to teach someone. And that's honestly it, because I've learned so many ways on how to explain negative feedback loops and blood sugar. Like, you know, I can explain it a million different ways now, which is great. And then building connections. So, a lot of the other leaders were great friends now, and even the students that we work with. I know a lot of them have joined committees that I'm on now, and I'm getting to the point now where I've done this for so long that students who I helped in my sessions are now in courses with me. So that's always interesting. But yeah, so overall, it's great for the students, but it's also wonderful for the leaders, and I've had such a wonderful experience. So I guess we'll go to Q&A.
We'll open the floor for Q&A, then we have another really quick little activity at the end.
And thank you very much. That was fascinating. I like the idea of how it's something that I would like to myself to incorporate in my own approach to teaching. I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention this in the beginning, all the concurrent sessions are being recorded and will be available on the CITL YouTube channel, which has a lot of other great things. I highly recommend everyone to see it. We have about 10 plus minutes for a Q&A, both from here and for the people on WebEx. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them on the chat and we'll get to you. So the floor is now open. Please let me know. We're gonna keep the mic running. I know it's a very quiet room, but for the sake of the recording, it's better if we speak into the microphone. So yeah, the floor is open. If you have a question, please let me know and I'll bring you the mic. Excellent.
So I apologize if I missed this already, but how do you decide which courses are going to be, or which courses you're going to move forward with?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have our core kind of subject areas. We focus a lot on math, psychology, biology, computer science, and chemistry. And we'll generally approach profs from those different courses and ask them if they're interested in having PAL offered in their course. Sometimes instructors also come to us and request it. So generally we kind of seek out the instructors or they seek us out. And then on our website every term, we'll update our list of courses. And anybody who's in the course, of course, will hear the announcements and see the Brightspace announcements throughout the term.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
You had mentioned that the program is non-remedial, so it's not a just-in-time service. But how can you, I guess, help the students understand that? Do you have students that come to your program thinking that it is remedial, and you don't get any students that are doing well in the courses coming to the program?
There are some instances like that. I think mainly with people, as I mentioned, coming in saying, I have an assignment due tonight, I really need help with this one. And we make sure they know that we can work that into future sessions, but it's not something we can do on demand. So we try to emphasize in the first day announcement to the class that the leader does, that it's a non-remedial program. And the more sessions you attend, the more likely your grade is to increase. And there is a mix of students. It's always kind of been up in the air about what group of students you're getting. Are you mainly getting A students or B and C, or students who are in danger of failing? And that's a hard thing to say. I went to the conference in Toronto 2 years ago, and there was a woman who had asked that question, been asked that question so many times that she went and did her own research on it. And she looked at the previous GPAs of students before they were in the PAL course, or the high school GPAs if they were new students. And I think the majority, it was kind of equal between the higher achieving students and the more average students. But again, we don't measure the success by the grades necessarily. And we make sure the students know that it is there for everybody. And the more sessions you attend, the more likely you are to benefit from it.
Anyone else? Do we have any WebEx questions? If you guys want to ask anything, by all means, let us know in the chat. Yeah, one more question over here.
Well, that was a great presentation. My question is about, so I'm in the faculty of nursing, and I think one of the, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the scheduling, because we're looking at the session leader being someone that successfully completed the course. I don't know if you've ever ran into like where it's difficult to get session leaders just because they're so busy taking 5 courses, etc. I teach pharmacology, and I think this would be a great asset at some point. But I just, in my mind, I'm thinking about, you know, questions in relation to scheduling. So is that difficult, or, you know, so I guess that's what my question is.
Yeah, that is one of the more challenging parts of finding the candidates. We have lots of people who come to us who are interested in working for the program, or people that are recommended by instructors. And they do great interviews, but I think the most challenging part is finding where the schedules line up. They have to be free to go to those lectures. If it's something that they've done like 3 times and they're coming back to the course again, if they're unable to make one of the lectures per week, we might let them watch lecture capture instead. But one of the bigger challenges in finding successful candidates is that scheduling, for sure.
Anyone else like to ask another question from the audience? I'm going to give myself the liberty to ask a question, if that's all right.
Sure.
And have you found more success in terms of applicability of PAL to particular types of disciplines? Sorry if you dealt with that in the presentation and I didn't hear that. But is it more suitable or applicable to the arts or sciences, maths, engineering? Does it make any difference? Is it to be applied equally to all types of disciplines?
We focus primarily, I would say, on the STEM courses. It gets a little trickier if you look at something like English, where there are a lot of subjective answers or particular topics or perspectives that the prof has. So we focus more on the STEM courses. We see our main numbers in psychology, biology, and computer science. Computer science has been a big success, especially intro to logic. That one is kind of notoriously difficult. We have a lot of people coming for that one. I think our first term doing intro to logic, 33% of the class showed up to at least one session. So we had a lot of people that term. I think last summer alone, there were over 300 contact hours, and that's the time. I find spring is a little better for student availability, so we sometimes get higher numbers, even though there are lower course offerings. But I find chemistry and math, it's a little more challenging for students to find time, especially where it's 4 lectures a week, and chemistry has the lab on top of it. But definitely, I would say more the STEM courses we focus on, but would be interested in expanding to any areas we can.
Excellent. Anyone else? Do you have any WebEx people chiming in? No? Don't be shy. You can type in the chat, or if you want to turn on your mic and ask a question, you could do that. Anyone else in the audience would like to say something?
I've just done such a good job of explaining you all. You know all the answers now.
It's like a PAL session.
Yeah.
No WebEx folks. I did see quite a list of people there. Here I am guilting people into participating. There was at least 10 people, if not more. Nobody has any queries or questions. We still have a few minutes if you're interested. No? Okay, well, if we're all good, let's first I'd like to conclude by thanking Stephanie and Sarah for an excellent presentation, and thank you all. We have a break at 12 and we continue at 1 o'clock. Thank you very much, and thank you, Stephanie and Sarah.
We have one little quick activity. Oh, I cut off your applause. No, please go ahead with the applause. Thank you, thank you. Just one quick activity if you want to join, just a word cloud for some engagement. So having listened to this presentation now, what words come to mind when you think of PAL? And hopefully I'll be able to open up the shared screen once I give you all a chance to hit that QR code. Belonging, I like that. Good. Constructive learning, community environment, collaboration. These are all great. The WebEx isn't showing up here for me now. No, thanks. I closed it.
Okay. Well, Brett, okay, if I actually closed it, then we're just gonna leave it as is for
Okay.
now, okay?
Anybody on WebEx, if you're interested in the responses, you can watch the video on our YouTube channel. We'll leave you in suspense. But this is great. I think you guys got a good sense of the program from the presentation today based on this. So thank you very much for attending. If you have any questions about the program at any point, please feel free to reach out to me. I have my email address and my office phone number here. You can Google me, Academic Success Center, MUN, PAL. I'm pretty easy to find. And I always welcome any questions that anybody has. All right, thank you very much.